I wake up to watch the sunrise, heal my pain by looking at the blue skies. I'm alive with my God, I see two minds. Mississippi burning, I prayed that I was earning. I can measure hate, racism ain't a person. All the hate they give like it never was emergence. If Jesus died for sin, why the black person burning? If Jesus died for sins, why the black person burning? Yeah. If Jesus died for sins, why the black person burning? Look at the state we in. Learned the lesson, didn't win. White man is a shadow and the black man is a sin. I'll bleed the blood again. Get the message from within. I pray for peace cause I know I'm gonna win. I pray for peace cause I know I'm gonna win. I pray for peace cause I know I'm gonna win. We pray for peace cause we know we gon' rise and shine, Earth Star. My name is Nova Too Serious. I'm from Mississippi, and this is where I channel my energy. Sometimes I make art, sometimes I talk about black problems, sometimes, just having a traumatic event and trying to let things go. But this time is not one of those. As a matter of fact, it is an accumulation of all of those, but it's not just one of those. So I wanted to talk about women and finance and the way that the family works, how a woman is treating the family, how the man is treating the family, and where, the confusion came in, because that's really it. Mental illness, all these problems that we are encountering and see, most of them are family traumas, just being broadcasted in public. That's all it is. And so, leading to that, getting to that, I would like to go ahead and explain myself. I would like to explain why I feel that everything that we're engaging in right now, the domesticness, the violence, the confusion and shit like that, is all based off of the way families interact with each other. Period. Okay, so to understand women and finance, you have to go back to where women were actually given rights. Why would I say that? Because that's where it comes in. That's where the beauty of all of this is. There are people in the world that look for money, that look for, recourse inside of the world. They want to be seen as high or the best or the one to go to. That's what they want. So, how desperate are they? I'll tell you. They're desperate enough to target the families that they make the money from. They're desperate enough to disenfranchise their family so that at the same time they could jeopardize other families. That's the kind of desperation. That's what I see when I see this kind of attack mentally and physically, because it's not like bodily harm, but it is economic harm nonetheless. So let me explain myself. To do that, I would have to explain to you about what what life was like on the other side for white people at a specific time. And at this time, it was like around the 1800s, late 1700s. And what happened around those times were there were women that were that ended up giving birth without families, without a father around. And I'm not saying that that's not a common thing. I'm just saying that the way that the government handled it was where child support initially was birthed. The way that the government handled, this woman who has given birth, doesn't have the means to take care of this child, and cannot go and claim that this person is the father because of whatever reason. And we already know why those reasons could possibly be. But it basically started with unwed mothers, and them getting no legal help and unable to demand support. So that's where I guess they started, looking at what's going on, and then it ended up going into families where child support formed in the early 1700s. It's crazy. I gotta get my information right, but in the early 1700s, when industrialized work started building corporate agendas and people stopped working on farms as families, where children worked as workers and not dependents. So like, it's out of a family business, you have workers, right? You can have your child work, which is legal. It's completely legal, especially if it's a family business and they're going to be a part of it. It's like legacy building at the same time. But what I'm trying to say here is, what happened to all those legacies? Because every legacy that we see now is rigged, and you know, not really who that person is. It's more so like a visual perspective. And I think this, at this point in time, is where all of that started to come in. The actual foundation of how a white man was viewed, because this was nothing but them. Like, this ain't had shit to do with no, you know, black men running around. You know, they ain't had shit to do with that. But that's probably what they want now. They probably wish it was like that here, because, you know, they would benefit from it. That's all I'm trying to say. Like, that's probably why they harass black people like myself and you know, farm us with our cyber behavior and, you know, whatever. Anyway, yeah, so these kids were, you know, workers, and they, you know, became dependents. And what changed was the labor, the way that, you know, people went into labor, the way that people view labor, and, you know, the way it was done, basically. And in 1975 is where, you know, the federal office actually got involved with child support. And, you know, it changed from the 1700s to the 1900s, but, you know, they gave women rights. They gave women rights. And like, I don't think that they gave women rights because they cared about the kids. I think that it was a bigger plan, and they were recognizing that the way that the family was interacting with each other had a lot to do with how corporate, or, you know, those big businesses were operating, and if they made money or not, because the man was the moneymaker, the man was the go-getter, right? So if you want the man as a go-getter to consistently work and continue to work, you change the outcome, you change the economics, you change how that shit happens. At that point, that's where they had the brilliant idea of, oh man, if we could do this with white men, if we could get this white man to work, and, you know, with his family and stuff like that, he cared about his family, or he trying to like avoid being held accountable for child support, we could do that shit with, we could do that shit with black people. We don't have to whoop them anymore. We could do it mentally. Yeah, and not only that, but it'll break the family. It'll stop them from being able to actually care about what they care about. Like, they can't even be around the things that they want to be around. If they, like, you could want to be around family, but you can't go around family because of their trauma. It don't make sense. But that's the point. Confusion. You know what I'm saying? And I think child support and the conflict of women having rights is where they built all of this trauma. So once you take the rights away from the woman, finances, and this and that, then you gonna have an uproar. Or you take this and that, then you have an uproar. I don't know, maybe I'm just thinking too hard about it. Back to women in finance and how labor became something that the woman could benefit off of. Because that's basically it. That's what it transformed from. Because women couldn't go get jobs, women couldn't do this. So in order to add equity to the household, because that's basically what it was about, adding equity to the household, they gave women rights. And at that point, they recognized that them doing that adds equity to black households. Yeah, because then the black women that have lost the black men that were, you know, mutilated and stuff like that, will then be able to stand up for their families. So in other words, they gave women rights just to attack black women. Not really just to attack black women. It was like, you know, two birds and one stone kind of thing. It was like, man, I want my woman to be where I want her to be, but I also want to make this money so I can make her who I want her to be. You know, that kind of stuff. But anyway, when it comes to child support and women and finances, like the way that women finance, I'm pretty sure nobody's gonna see this video because right now they're benefiting heavily off of this shit. But so it starts with housing. It starts with what's inside the house, like, you know, your safety, your comfort, where you are. And so child support is basically assistance and authority. It's about how you use your authority to protect and take care of the child, how you use your assistance to provide for the child. And then that equals to the finances for kids, which is how you'll be able to do that thing. And that is split down the middle for mom and dad. Yep, that's how it is. And then it would be a family, one big happy family. But we're not talking about happy families because we're in the US. So we gotta add the government in. And when it comes to the government, we got dad, right? Dad is the one that has to pay to parent. He has to pay to be there as a parent. He has to pay to see his kids. He has to pay, not really just to see his kids, but he has to pay money. See, this revenue now is being tied into family equity. It's now being tied into family business. And that's the transfer. It wasn't meant to be the transfer, but that's where the transfer is. And they didn't recognize it until later on. I might be in danger right now. But what I'm saying is like, you know, so the dad was the paying to see their kids. Mom was the legal authority. Mom was the one who said, this is what goes on. This is what I want to see. And this is what I want. This is how I want to have it. And, you know, it didn't always go the way it was planned. And, yeah, but if you look at the value of each of those things that the mom and dad are able to do, you will look at what the dad was able to do, which is like determine value. If he paid to be around his family or to see his family, he would be adding value into the family. He would be, you know, adding talking points to who he is as a person if he invested in that. And if he didn't invest in that, it's just something that, you know, was embarrassing, something that he didn't want to be a part of. And that's where they added, you know, the drama into the family, where it's like, you know, get them into gang, get that kid into, you know, drugs. Or if it's a female, you know, let's go and like essay her, you know, and then when they essay her, you know, she'll just be stuck in the loop. She'll become a prostitute and like feel like that's the only thing that men want, you know, because remember, men pay for value, right? I'm just saying. So you look at the mom and the legal authority and what that equals to. The mom's legal authority equals to the individual value. And the way that a mom sees the man that birthed her child is where her individual value comes in. Like, either she's gonna value that individual or she's gonna value herself. And when she values herself, that's where they start putting mirrors in front of these people. They put mirrors in front of them as if, like, you know, everything that they are is their fault, when it's not. And it's all based off of trauma from the previous family. It's like the previous tribe of America, and, you know, what's going on. So that in turn creates a conditional support. A conditional support system, a system where people only want support with conditions, or they only want to support with conditions. They only want to, you know, do something for a specific reason, because that's where the finance is. That's where the, you know, benefit of assets is the detail. And the detail nowadays is, how can you get the money? Most of them are lying. Nowadays, most people are lying to get the money. But there are really people that actually go through problems like this and traumas like this that still don't even get actual, child support. And that's what I'm trying to talk about, how this is an attack on the family. Because if it wasn't an attack on the family, then it would actually, help the families. But if you look at the families that are receiving benefits, and then, like I said, now it's a federal thing. In 1975, federal offices have created, division for, child support. Although, since the 1700s to the 1800s, 1900s, 2000s, they've been in control of everything with corporate, with the way that corporate values, like their agendas. These were employees of corporate, and they made money. And corporate has the ability to use money how they want to. So, like, how they want to use it is how they want to use it. And all this conditional support equals, to, the mom being an overbearing single woman, preaching division, and, false sense of finance. Like, she's talking about how she did all this and did that, but actually she had help. She had help. I'm not saying that she didn't have help from the right people. I'm just saying that regardless, a woman needs help. So if a woman is talking about her benefits that she had got, and she doesn't say that it was help, overbearing single moms. And that's what that is, false sense of finance. And then, for the dad, when it comes to the conditional support, it's survival mode. It's like, we gotta survive. I love you, but we gotta survive. You know what I mean? Incarnated, economic values. The economic values of the family before is being, transferred. It's transfer trauma, but it's also being incarnated into the economics of the next family. And they don't apply this to mental health, though. They don't. There's no way you can apply this to mental health. And if you did, it would be private, and it wouldn't be, a thing that everybody's going through. Although a lot of people have sickness resulting from family or abuse. Anyway, and yeah, it's just the outside support system for the dad. When it comes to conditional support, the dad is only able to support from the outside. Why? Because the government has taken the outside responsibility when they added child support in, when they added in their legal authority to talk about what is going on inside this child's life, but at the same time not be completely responsible for the child. They're not even like reaching out to the fathers. They probably did or tried, but like they have conditions that only meet their assets, that only meet their benefits. Like, there's no family benefits, is what I'm trying to say. There's no family benefit. And that just breeds family trauma. Which brings me to family trauma, the key, the bread and butter for all of the conflicts that Americans go through. Like, quite literally. Break bread for your friends, your enemies. And family trauma basically equals to, abandonment, domestic violence, secondhand drug abuse, firsthand drug abuse, and overall misguidance and neglect. So, when it comes to women in finance, you guys are played because you're basically paid there. You're like government prostitutes at this point. You're like, working for the government as a family member, destroying your own families